We are live. All right. All right. So recently, I came across an article of a guy in Florida who accidentally shot his girlfriend who was pregnant and killed her. Thank God the baby actually survived, but the reason why he shot her is because he assumed or thought that she was an intruder in the house.
Tonight, a heartbreaking case under investigation on the Treasure Coast. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says a husband accidentally shot and killed his pregnant wife, mistaking her for an intruder. News Channel 5's Megan McRoberts reports from Martin County on the investigation.
Well, Martin County deputies have been out here piecing this investigation together since early this morning. And while some people might feel that the circumstances surrounding the shooting are tough to understand and grasp, deputies say for now, the story is adding up. People who live along or drive by Ballard Avenue watched these deputies working for hours Wednesday with a lot of concern, even confusion.
Heartbreaking that families have this kind of trauma.
Charmy and Dewey got an early wake-up call at her front door.
About 6:30, and there was a police officer there and just asked if, we had heard anything going on in the neighborhood last night, and we said no. Something happened, and he said yes, but you don't have to worry about anything, and then he left.
Because of Marcy's law enforcement now limited in the information they can now make public. They are not saying who lives in this home.
Young guy, just see him in the neighborhood with the dogs once in a while.
But neighbors confirmed for us it is a young couple in their 30s with a toddler and the wife maybe about 6 months pregnant.
Really nice couple, yeah.
Deputies say the husband shot and killed his wife thinking she was an intruder. Incredibly, though, law enforcement says she was rushed to the hospital in time for doctors to save her unborn baby, still alive Wednesday night. Deputies will closely retrace the husband's steps, continuing to make sure it matches the evidence.
And right now we are in a wave of a bunch of new gun owners. And what I wanted to do was to put as much information out there as possible to talk about the realities and the responsibilities about owning a firearm that go just above, that go above and beyond just the idea of going to the gun range. There are a lot of psychological elements about owning a firearm, whether you're carrying a firearm in public or keeping one in your house. Unfortunately, sometimes these things do happen, but I've always been the biggest advocate of the fact that the more people we educate on firearm safety and responsible ownership, the better job we'd be able to do to actually mitigate the number of accidents like this from happening. So what I wanted to do is reach out to one of my good friends and somebody who makes a living out of training people how to use a firearm responsibly and effectively, and bring him onto my show so that he can teach you guys, for the people who really don't have access to the type of training that would be ideal, for him to come on and kind of talk to you about some of the things that you may not think about when it comes to home defense with a firearm. And so that person's going to be Rob Pincus. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. This is a really important topic. We talk about if we don't exhibit responsibility, we could very well have other people's versions of responsibility legislated upon us.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I know that's what's on everybody's mind this time of year, the election, all this, but that's like the fourth reason why this is important, right? Because if you're going to have a firearm in your home, the last thing you want to do is have that tragedy where you hurt a family member.
Yeah.
While you think you're going to be protecting them.
Yep, absolutely. And so for me, I know I live alone. And so for me, this isn't so much of a concern, but there are a lot of people who have family members, have children, have wives, have siblings, loved ones who actually live in a house. And so can you kind of break down what you usually teach people when it comes to a home defense standpoint? What are some of the things that people don't really think about when it comes to home defense with the handgun or any type of gun for that matter?
Like so many of the things we've talked about, whether it's in the vehicle, in public, in home, a lot of people who are into guns want to make it all about the gun. And that's the first mistake, right? If we're talking about home defense, I wrote a book years ago called Defend Yourself. And it was about armed home defense, but it talks about everything: the locks, the windows, staging versus storage, lighting, your plan, communication with your family, barricade. So when we talk about defending yourself and your family in your home, we use similar terminology to what we would use in an active shooter environment. Mm-hmm. So when we start from the fundamentals, we want to think about staying safe. This is about defense. You're not looking for bad guys. You're not hunting. You're not going to clear your house. This is about making sure your family's safe and being prepared to defend them and yourself in that worst case scenario. And if you're alone, then cool, it's just you that you're
Yeah.
ready to defend.
I mean, I might be honest with you.
But that doesn't mean
Even me personally, even me living by myself, I'm not going to go hunt you in my house.
no.
Me personally.
It's I have trained for decades, guys, to do that. Right. I was on a SWAT team. We had the Extreme Close Quarters Counter Ambush program at Valhalla Training Center, Naval Special Warfare, SF. The greatest warriors in the world came into our live fire shoot house, 360 degrees, and we helped them overcome their weaknesses. We had to exploit the mistakes that were made. So when you have like an A team of SF guys moving through a house, missing corners, missing doorways, missing communication opportunities, taking their eyes off of danger areas, I lose a lot of credibility if I start pretending I'm going to teach like the average guy like me or you to clear a house or an apartment by ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just not real. So what we're trying to do is not find the bad guy. We might be trying to find our family members. We might be trying to move to safety.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to talk about. So we talk about moving with the gun. Let's make it real easy, right? If you have a family member in your home, we're going to start there. If you don't have a family member in your home, if you probably have visitors, right? Maybe that's that visitor you met at the bar, or somebody you met on Tinder.
Oh, let's
maybe
talk about.
whatever, right? like you might have so that person might get up and look for some water in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like same thing. It could be family members staying with you during the holidays. We used to run a scenario for the civilians that came through Valhalla Training Center for home defense, where we would say, somebody breaks in your door, you hear it, and you realize, this was before kind of everybody had cameras, right? I've got video cameras. It's real easy and cheap. You should have video cameras in your home. You pick up your phone, you can see who's in the living room.
Yeah, I was just trying to do that now, but for some reason my
whatever
camera's
it is.
offline.
Yeah, so when we do that, what we look for is, what if that person is in your home, but it's a mistake? And we would say, it's a drunk person. They're mad because their wife changed the colors of the wall. They rearranged the furniture. What is this? And what should you do? Well, you should barricade, have your gun ready, get on the phone with the police and say, some drunk, deranged, whatever person's in my home, because there's not an actual threat.
Yeah.
We used to run that as a hypothetical. There was a scenario in Colorado Springs. I'm in Denver right now, down in, that's Colorado Springs over there. So there was a scenario probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. College kid in an apartment complex, banging on a door, let me in, let me in, let me in, drunk, breaks the window with his hand, reaches in, unlocks the door to come in. Thought it was his apartment. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Now here's the problem. The gun owner is in the kitchen looking at this guy out of the door with a gun in his hand saying, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to shoot him. And, his wife or girlfriend's on the phone with the sheriff's office right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, you see this guy, why aren't you around the corner? Why aren't you barricaded? Why aren't you upstairs? You got your girlfriend with you, your wife, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
I understand this is my castle, but I don't want to kill somebody.
Yeah, I don't either.
So if I don't have to, I'm not going to. So when we say evade, barricade, and then obviously respond, fight if you need to. So that's the backdrop. That's the foundation.
Okay. So what are some of so from that perspective, sorry, I just got a phone call. So from
that Tinder date coming through.
Yeah, I'm not on Tinder. I was for 30 seconds. So, I know for me, like I've tried. So I'm not gonna lie. So whenever I've acted out clearing my house, right? And for me, it's more predicated on the idea of what are some of the realities about clearing my house, if for whatever reason I had to do that, whether that be because I need to absolutely leave my house, but there's someone in my house preventing me from doing that. That would be in one of the situations where I would go and clear my house. But like you just pointed out, for me, I'm going to barricade. Wherever I am, I'm going to barricade, and I'm going to put something between me and the potential person that's in the house. But let's say, so let's do a couple of hypotheticals. If let's say I'm in my living room watching TV. Let's say I'm binge watching The Mandalorian, well, you can't really binge watch it because
all 9 episodes.
yeah, like I mean, and the thing is, that's one of my favorite shows.
You.
But I digress.
Right.
But
I got me too.
So we're binge watching The Mandalorian. All of a sudden, we hear that sound.
Yep.
Instinctively, you think, let me go find out what that sound is. So what would you recommend doing in that particular situation? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, even I have done that. I've heard the sound, I've grabbed the gun, and I'm like, what is that? Even though I just sat up here and told you, I'm not going to go search my house and hunt you down. But instinctively, I've done it.
As you say, like even you, I mean, all due respect, I'm the guy that teaches people not to do it, but I understand that my human animal, forget about my training, whatever, my human animal is gonna want to go check out that stimulus.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's in this moment. If you're everybody watching this that isn't currently dealing with an imminent home invasion, right? The alarm's not going off, dog's not barking, kids aren't screaming. Tell yourself, your job, make sure your family's safe, make it harder for the bad guy to hurt you and them. So it's not to go stop the bad guy. It's not justice. It's not freedom. It's not the American way. So I look at it this way, like, and I get it. I'm in an apartment right now. But it obviously, a lot of times I've been in big family homes. It doesn't really matter it's unlikely that somebody could get into this apartment towards where my daughter's room is, which is down around the corner, without coming through this door. But I fall asleep on the couch. I hear that scream from the back room. Well, the parental, the thing is to go run check on my kid.
Yeah.
As I'm doing that, if I've got this quick access safe staged out here, right? So maybe I have some reason to believe I hear glass break, and then I hear my daughter scream and say something that indicates there's a person in there. Well, boom, this is going to be opened, and now I'm going to get my gun out. And when my gun comes out, if I go running towards her and she comes around that corner at the same time, and my finger's on this trigger, and I get startled, we've got a tragedy.
Yeah.
So the first thing I need to think about is, why am I going that way? It's because my daughter's over there. So if nothing else, I know 100% my daughter's around this corner.
Okay.
I don't want to be running around with this gun out. Not like this. So we talk about the high compressed ready, talk about stool position, point the gun down, indexing the trigger finger. The problem is every study that's been done says that no matter how well trained you are, the higher the stress level, the more you anticipate the need to shoot, the more likely you are to start moving the gun into a shooting position and move your finger into a shooting position before you're actually cognitively making a decision to shoot, that you've identified a threat.
Yeah.
So I come around the corner, my daughter comes around the corner, this is the tragedy. And my guess is that that's something like what happened in the scenario you opened this segment up with, right? So what do? Well, first of all, we tell people to stage their gun with a holster. So this quick access safe is normally in the back. When I pulled this out, by the way, you might have seen this, there's a trigger guard on it. The reason there's a trigger guard on it is so that I can keep the gun chambered inside the box. I don't want to reach in the box and be grabbing at it and hit that trigger. So the trigger safe trigger guard keeps me from being able to do that when I grab the gun. And it's lanyarded to the box.
Gotcha.
So it comes out and it's there. So if I have a holster nearby, boom, gun goes into the holster, paddle holster, I'm good. Now I get it. I may fall asleep out here, or I may be in my bedroom without jeans and a belt on, without being able to use the paddle holster. So one of the other things we tell people is, okay, you've got your stage. I'm going to use a SIRT pistol for a second. Staged gun. Now this is not the kid screaming because I'm going to be moving fast. But in a scenario where somebody's pounding on that door, there's Velcro holster or Velcro belt with the holster, pull the gun out of the box, gun goes into the holster. Now you might think, why would I want to holster the gun? Well, here's the thing. We're all walking around the mall or downtown believing that, like, while we're looking for street signs or thinking about dinner, talking to our friend, if ISIS shows up, we're going to John Wick that situation, right? And like, we're going to solve it. So if I can really believe that with a holstered concealed firearm, I'm going to respond appropriately in this chaotic, uncontrolled space,
Yeah.
I have to be able to think that if I had enough warning to go get my gun and put my hand, we call this the staged position. My hand's on the gun. I am very on balance. I'm very aware of what's going on. I'm aware that there's potential threats. Maybe I have a flashlight in my hand. And as I come up to this corner, this is where we start talking about clearing and CQB.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to come right at it and get somebody right in my face. I'm going to come wide, try to keep 2 arms reach if I can. And now if I see somebody, if it's my daughter, I'm still probably going to have that emotional human
Total
reaction
response, yeah.
where it's like, oh, except this isn't shooting my daughter, right? Whereas that much movement from here might be.
Yeah.
So, and then if it's the bad guy, cool. Then I can shoot from retention, right? Maybe I can shoot from extension. Maybe I can move back here and use this corner as cover. Again, I am so far ahead of the curve in this staged position right now from what I would be in a counter ambush public environment with concealment.
Yeah.
That if I'm not comfortable here, knowing that I have my daughter around the corner, family member, home visitor, whoever it is, then maybe I'm not ready to be carrying that gun in public either in a holster, right? So we have to put it all together that way. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, it makes perfect sense. How much do you think the lack of light or lighting played into, I don't say creating the accident, so to speak?
Something approaching zero. There's a lot of play that we get on weapon mounted lights and the need for light and all that. You know, right? Like I can hit the switch. We can have emergency lighting like this that, you know, you hit the thing, throw it down on the floor, throw it around a corner. Obviously handheld flashlights. I've been through all of it. The Surefire Academy, the Strategos, all the military law enforcement stuff, and all the studies again, all the observations and high-level reality-based training. When you watch dash camera videos, surveillance camera videos of law enforcement, combat cameras, military's a little different. We see people using their gun as a flashlight. So I can say.
Oh, repeat what you kind of had a little bit of lag. So repeat what you said. You see people and then you.
We see people using the gun as a flashlight.
Okay.
So I can say intellectually, from a training standpoint, to get this stuck on here, that yes, I can learn to manipulate the light in a way we call intermittent and indirect. Right. So intermittent and indirect light use is, and I know it doesn't get much darker, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
I can flash this light off of this wall and it will splash in a way that illuminates the room, right? I can do it to the floor. I could do it to the ceiling if I were a high ready kind of guy, right? So I get, trust me, intermittent and indirect light use. We talk about it a lot in the military and law enforcement training. I can do it with a long gun. Right, same kind of idea. Like, take this, I can flash that light off the ground or off of a wall and look over here. And the other thing about intermittent use, if you think about it, and I'll think you can see it here. If I were to leave this light on, you start to figure out where I am right before you see me.
Yeah.
Because you see the light moving, right? So we use intermittent and indirect light use so that I am more likely to not be predictable coming around that corner.
Gotcha.
So I don't want people in the comments to think, oh, if Rob took a class, he'd know what he was talking about. I understand how light use works. And I understand why in the military or even in a SWAT environment, I am at a higher level of acceptable risk for pointing the gun where I need light, even if it's not a threat, because of my job.
Gotcha.
Right, and I've had some of those jobs. So now in a defensive environment, the last thing I want to do is point that gun at my daughter, right, or the friend or whoever. So even if I have a weapon-mounted light, I'm going to use a hand light, intermittent, indirect, as my way of illuminating things. But remember, I know my house. I know the layout. I know where the lights are. And I don't know what it's like for you, and maybe a blackout shade, something awesome. But in the middle of the night, with everything off, the TV, right, that residual light, that lights, the microwave, the street lights coming in from the not blackout shades, like even in the middle of the night, I'm going to know the difference myself between the 5-year-old and an adult.
Yeah.
Right. And then if it's another adult and you're in that house, then you start to not maybe know the difference. But that's where you got to use your light. Again, use a handheld light to identify. Weapon mounted lights are a backup. In very, very, very few scenarios where people are doing what I would consider the right thing, where people are using the other techniques, using other strategies, good locks, good doors, cameras, all that stuff, plan with your family, quick access safe, is the difference whether the light was handheld or weapon mounted. And I've heard, and I have not confirmed this, but this particular case in Florida, actually there was a weapon mounted light.
Really?
Yeah, so that was an unconfirmed. I'm still trying to track that down. But certainly we know plenty of police officers. We know this happens. We know that in well-lit daytime scenarios, people shoot the wrong person. Yeah. So I don't think lighting is an issue in the sense that, if he only had a weapon mounted light.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is, again, let's go back to that kind of ISIS shows up and I'm going to John Wick in the middle of the mall.
We don't.
I think a lot of people.
Oh, you said John Wick. Okay. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I thought you said something else. I was actually going to correct you. I was like, we don't use him. I thought you said John Wayne. I was like, we use John Wick now.
Oh, no, I got that. I got toddler Pincus's duck shoot revolver there. So but we have to understand that it's not a fantasy movie, right? It's not that action movie where you're going to like dive, roll over the couch and come up shooting. Like there has to be a moment between your stimulus that you may have a threat in the house and the moment when you're going to shoot. And if like so I got that safe here, right?
Yeah.
If I'm getting chased to my gun and the guy's like right on my heels, I'm better off trying to hit him with this box, right? Than like try to do my code and get the gun out, right? So it's not to say that there isn't a delay because my gun's in a quick access safe, or a delay because my gun's in a low ready, or because my gun's in a holster in the stage position. Mm-hmm. It's to say the scenario you're thinking about, if you're well trained and practice and you know what you're doing, should allow you to overcome those delays. And those delays are there to avoid the much more likely, honestly, tragedy of what happens when a kid gets access to a loaded gun that is in a safe. Or the thing that we see far too often, like this case in Florida, where the well-meaning, maybe well-equipped, maybe well-trained person using what I would consider poor technique, right? Because you can be really, really good at the wrong thing. Yeah. So maybe he was, maybe he was doing this. He was slicing the pie with a gun out at extension. Well, the problem is every study, Force Science Institute says there's going to be trigger checking. So the trigger checking is when you've moved your finger to the trigger before you've mentally identified a threat and decided to shoot. Well, if I'm in that condition and the pregnant girlfriend, wife comes around the corner, what happens is that you get the shot. Yep. It is, and that is
the sympathetic response.
Yeah. Well, let's be careful because the sympathetic response is something like we saw this a few years ago with the guy was backing up to the truck, female deputy pointing a gun at him, male deputy with a taser fires the taser. That's it. That's an instinctive grasp reflex at the sound.
Gotcha.
This is actually your body perceives because your brain's looking for that. So you have a pattern recognition. The pattern recognition is what you visualized a million times. The person's coming at you in the scenario where you have a potential threat in the house. So you execute your plan. It's called a false positive in psychology world.
Okay, I see.
You take a stimulus response pattern and you mistake the stimulus.
So the action is
you execute the right response.
The action is voluntary, the catalyst for the action is incorrect versus
Yeah, it's like, so
sympathetic,
look at it
which
this way,
is involuntary.
Right. Yeah, sympathetic
Hold on, you're breaking up.
because you sorry.
Hold on, repeat what you said because you were breaking up there for a second.
It's the sympathetic reaction, instinct, and it's just a graph. We're talking about driving that gun out and shooting, which is a learned response because of a stimulus that your brain recognizes as the thing you're looking for that you need to shoot before you make a cognitive processing of that information. And people get confused about this. I get it. I spent a lot of time in the 2000s studying neuroscience and non-cognitive decision making to be able to help people prepare. Because I can teach the mechanical techniques, right? And I did teach these things, and I learned them.
Hold on real quick, Rob, because I hear you just fine. But for some reason, I'm getting some lag on your video. All right.
Maybe I'm from New Jersey, so I talk fast.
No, that's all right. I think we're good. Okay, we got you.
So just the idea that the mechanical techniques, right? The slicing the pie and all that stuff. We got that. We knew what that all was. To a large degree, we knew what that was in the 80s. Moving into the 90s, we started to see dash camera videos, surveillance camera videos, high-level simulations training, reality-based training. We started to see that regardless of what we were teaching technique-wise, there were improvisations that were happening and people were winning. One would be that lowering center of gravity and driving out, even one-handed, as opposed to, this. This is great for target shooting. This is great for passing your qualification course. But I've never seen this as a defensive response to an unexpected threat by law enforcement, even if they trained that for years. So by the 90s, we figured out, okay, there's a missing piece here. And that missing piece is the contextual appropriateness of taking what works in a shoot house or what works in a range and hoping it will be used in a completely different environment where we have to process novel information. And that's that novel information that has to be accounted for. So the novel information is, who is this person coming at me?
Yeah.
And that takes time. So we know it takes at least a third of a second for novel visual information to turn into an action, or, this is important, to stop a repetitive action. So what's that mean? Well, if I, again, SIRT pistol, if I drive out and start just flailing shots, right? I'm shooting obviously faster than 1/3 of a second, right? So my split times are going to be faster than my brain can process novel information. This is why you see people go into court and have to testify about why 12 shots were fired instead of only 5.
Yeah.
Why the knife was out of the guy's hand in that iPhone 12 video freeze frame, and the muzzle flash was still coming out of the gun. While I'm in a repetitive trained motion, manage, recoil, shoot, manage, recoil, shoot, manage, recoil, shoot, that other process is still happening at a much slower pace of novel information telling me to stop pressing the trigger. Right?
Yeah.
So I have to account. I can talk about sub 1 second draws and all this stuff all I want on a timer drill range scenario. But the reality is, if I'm trying to do a sub 1 second draw for home defense, I am shooting anyone that comes around that corner before I've had a chance to decide if that's a good idea or not.
See, I never actually.
And that's where we're,
Yeah, I never actually.
So that's where we're setting ourselves up for failure by just obsessing over pure technique speed. Right. So you'll hear people, there was a big article that came out recently and was shared around. It was from like Police One or something about the low ready. And they talk about time, the low ready versus been extended, and you really don't give up much time, and it may make you less likely to shoot the wrong percent. But I don't just want the time to worry about. I want the actions also. So if I can come to a compressed ready position, to a SUL, that less than a second to get the gun to the shooting position, be ready to go, fit, versus this, which is like a fraction of a second, a much lower fraction of a second. If I'm walking around my house like this, to keep the risk of shooting a family member down. And I get it. Like, there'll be people in the comments like, I'm not giving up time. I know where my family is. What if my family's behind me? Okay, your family's behind you, but why would you want to have two different techniques for this super high stress situation that no matter how much training, practice, visualization you do, you're still worried about your job and a Mandalorian or Tinder or whatever else is going on. Like, this isn't what you do.
Yeah.
So it's not like on Tuesday I'm going to be a Navy SEAL like Jack Bauer or something, right? But then on Thursdays I'm going to walk around in the stage position. So we want one default position so that when and guess what? I'm going to practice my presentation. I'm going to practice dropping the flashlight and getting into a two-handed position.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to have a lanyard on my light. I can have one of the strapped lights. I can have one with a ring. I can do all kinds of things to manage the perceived downsides of this staged position handheld light when you're moving through your house to your family or to a barricade area. And by the way, reverse this. If you're at the mall or a theater and you've got to get your family out, same thing. Because I get it, ISIS is shooting the place up, but who's outside the door?
Yeah.
Every cop
Yeah.
within 20 miles. Jack Bauer and out the door. You want to be this guy coming out the door.
This is very true.
Ooh, and then this is so we cops during active shooter response because they were running around with their gun out. Like, you don't want to be the guy with his gun out when the good guys are.
Lost you there for a second. Rob, you still there? Alrighty, let's see.
Yeah, I think I'm back.
All right, perfect.
Sorry, that was actually the alarm telling me I have to go pick my daughter up from school.
Okay, yeah, so we can go ahead and wrap it up here.
Yeah, so what I goes, I don't know if you don't want to be the guy that's running around with the gun out.
Okay.
When the cops are looking for the guy who's shooting the place up. So this stage position becomes really incredibly important for that in between, just walking around with the concealed gun, oblivious, and running around like the SWAT guy looking for bad guys. And it keeps you from getting mistaken as the bad guy, keeps you from mistaking friendlies as a bad guy. There's just a whole bunch of advantages to it. And it knows fully that there is a delay.
I lost you again.
To a bad guy.
There we
go. Okay. So I said there's a known delay.
Mm-hmm.
I accept that there is a known delay between the time I'm able to use the gun, right? Or when I realize I need to use the gun, I can use the gun if I'm in the holster. But we accept that reality by walking around with a gun in your holster all the time.
Yeah.
And I also know the cognitive delay for processing information. And when you, if all you're going to do is the timer on a range and just look at this piece of device and say, well, gee, I'm giving up 0.75 seconds. I got it. I know you are. But that 0.75 seconds is almost irrelevant when you factor in cognitive processing. And then when you put in that, I'm not a danger to my own family, or I'm much less likely to hurt somebody else. So I think it's worth it. Gotcha. All of these things are balances. All of these things are compromises. If I wanted to be safe, I'd surround myself with the squad of Marines all the time, right? And just be, and still be ready and sober and alert and all that, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how we live our lives.
Yeah.
We compromise.
Absolutely.
And I think that the stage position and handheld lights are a huge compromise that is worth it to prevent that negative outcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if people want to know where they can find you, if they want to take a course, so forth and so on, where they go?
I'll tell you what, all this information is covered at personaldefensenetwork.com. We do have paywalls and premium memberships and all that.
Hold on, you're breaking up. You're breaking up again.
Obviously, I think it was my caught.
Hold on, I think you're frozen now. All right, let's see here. Yep, you're frozen. Let it go. Let it go. Is that the Frozen song?
Yeah, it was frozen. That's frozen.
That's Frozen. All right, let's see here.
All right,
I think we got you back.
Am I back?
I think so. Let me see. All right, talking.
Okay.
Flow.
So the information is all available at personaldefensenetwork.com. We have paywalls, premium classes, all that stuff, but a lot of it's available for free, especially this fundamental information. I always say, like, I want to put the most important information out first. Mm-hmm. If you find value, come back for the advanced stuff.
Gotcha.
So stage position, weapon-mounted lights, home defense fundamentals, all those things are there. And again, my book, Defend Yourself, which covers all this, is available the normal places and Audible, the audio book. So check it out. I do training. We do a home defense class, obviously, around the country, different places. And I also wrote the curriculum for the USCCA's live fire defensive program. Okay. So a lot of these fundamental concepts are built into the defensive shooting program. If you look at the USCCA's schedule, we've got hundreds of instructors now certified across the country for level 1.
Sweet.
Level 2, there's another group of instructors. And then, of course, ultimately you come up and you take that training with me and my staff at IC.
All righty. All right. Well, appreciate you for joining me, sir. I don't want to take up any more of your time, so you can go do the responsible thing and pick up your daughter.
Yeah, man.
But no, appreciate you, man. Look forward to having you back on. Hopefully,
Thanks.
All things end well with the situation that we, the serve as the catalyst for this discussion. And I hope a lot of people got some great information. So appreciate you, sir. And you have a good one.
Yeah, anytime.
You know how frightening it is to think about what happens in the moments and even days after you've had to use your gun in self-defense? When you first start carrying a gun for protection, it can be scary thinking about the psychological effects, potential jail time, and the court costs associated with the self-defense shooting. I've been there myself, hoping I never have to go through it, which is why I use concealed carry insurance with USCCA. As a USCCA member, you can mitigate, if not completely eliminate, the stress and financial burden of the legal battle you may face after a self-defense shooting. If you want to learn more, click the link in the description where I did a full review of this concealed carry insurance. However, there is a second link in the description where USCCA offers a 365-day money-back guarantee, which lets you try it out for a whole year. And if you don't like it, get all your money back. And to help further spread our two-way message, don't forget to like, share, comment, and hit the bell and subscribe button. Let my voice be your voice. Also, if you're wondering where to purchase your AR-15s are essential, I will not comply. I am the militia. I lost all my guns in a boating accident. And your state-specific Keep America tactical shirt, click the link next to my head or the link in the description section. Or if you're watching this on a mobile device, tap the small triangle on the lower right-hand side of this video and click the link in the description. And also, since there's a chance that Biden might become the president, and we'll have to live in these things a lot longer. Right now, we have the performance mask at shop.mrcolionnoir.com. And no, these aren't the masks that suffocate you to death. You can breathe in this mask. It's lightweight material, very high quality. You know how I do. But anyway, so if you're interested, go on to shop.mrcolionnoir.com, grab your mask. And all these masks, I have them in all the designs that I have in my hats and my shirts as well. So go on to shop.mrcolionnoir.com and see what you got. All right, folks.